In this video, we will be discussing responses to classical liberalism, in particular with a focus on the mixed market economy and the welfare state. The question for inquiry that this video is going to attempt to address is the second question here in the middle. How did classical liberalism respond to competing ideologies? The social, political changes that were happening in the country of America were very much grounded upon what was happening economically. And there was a major shift that was happening economically that classical liberalism was responding to. Now, classical liberals originally saw no reason for governments to get involved in the economy, believing that individuals should be responsible for their own financial institutions. However, as we will see in this video, is a shifting in the economic spectrum from the far right-hand side to being somewhere closer to the middle. Another great thing for us to keep in mind as we watch this video is that economics itself is driven by the law of supply and demand, which means that when the supply for a product or a service goes down, the demand will rise, and vice versa. When the demand falls, the supply of this product will rise. So let's try to understand what was happening in America by using the economic spectrum as our tool. So whereas before, with the principles of classical liberalism, we have ourselves on the far right-hand side of the spectrum. This is the side where the people, such as Adam Smith, talk about laissez-faire economics. Speaking of hands off to the government, all aspects of the economy are fueled by private investments. The supply and demand market is fueled and structured freely without any intervention from the government. However, as we will see in the 20th century, we're a move towards the mixed economy in America. So with things like the New Deal that we will talk about in this video and other changes that are happening after the Great Depression, more and more government intervention was needed to balance out the scales. In fact, one of the key thinkers who wrote about the importance of the intervention of government within the economy of a country was John Maynard Keynes, who believed that few individuals on their own could successfully predict the vagaries or the fluctuations of the market. Thus, most ordinary people would inevitably suffer and lose money. All that was required to moderate these market fluctuations was for someone or something to regulate consumer demand. During times of inflation, such as the 1920s, the governments should, through their central banks, rise interest rates, raise taxes, and reduce government spending on such things as road building. These simple acts would drain surplus money from the economy and help cool down inflationary demand. As the economy cooled and approached a recession, however, the government should again intervene, this time lowering interest rates, decreasing taxes, and increasing government spending, even if this resulted in a temporary deficit. These actions during the time of a recession made by the government would have the effect of pumping money back into the economy, and this would cause the economy to grow again. Any deficit that the government accumulated during this time would be eliminated during the next phase of inflation. The government, according to Keynes, would regulate demand by manipulating the supply of money available to producers and consumers. Keynes ultimately argued that in a liberal democratic society, governments could and should play an important role in safeguarding all citizens from economic uncertainty. As one historian put it, before the 1930s, national political debate often revolved around the question of whether the government should be intervening in the economy. However, after the Great Depression, the debate centered not around whether government should intervene, but how it should intervene. One of the ways that the government intervened in the economy was come to be known as the New Deal. The New Deal was established by former American President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was the first president to use these new ideas of government intervention to help grow the economy. When he was elected in 1933, after Herbert Hoover, he promised the New Deal for the people by implementing public work programs to help build employment. These programs became known as the Alphabet Programs and helped put people back to work. One example were men that were being hired to work on roads and to help build national parks. So the New Deal and other deals similar that were happening in America at this time were fundamental to help rebuild the economy. Similarly, they're fundamental in helping people understand that a complete laissez-faire approach to economics was simply not sustainable. So in this video, we were looking at the second question for inquiry: how did classical liberalism respond to competing ideologies? And we were particularly concerned with the economic spectrum and the shift from laissez-faire to more of a mixed market economy. In our next video, we're going to continue talking about some of the ways that the government intervened and helped rebuild America's economy.